Have you ever stopped yourself doing something because you were afraid of what people might think? Maybe you didn't wear that outfit or post that video or speak up in a meeting. Or maybe it's one step on from that and it actually causes you anxiety. Perhaps you lie awake at night replaying an awkward moment from 2 years ago. Or perhaps your heart races and you feel anxious every time you have to send a text to a friend. All because you fear being perceived negatively by others. The good news is that you can train yourself to care less about what other people think and feel more confident in yourself. Welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Liz White, a consultant clinical psychologist. If you want clear, practical tips on how to overcome anxiety, then hit subscribe. So first, let's set the scene and have a think about what happens when you let fear of judgment from other people rule your life. So firstly, you tend to overthink everything, replaying conversations, decoding your text messages, second guessing yourself, doubting yourself, and this can gradually erode your confidence, your self-belief, and your ability to trust yourself. You tend to miss out on opportunities because you let thoughts like, what if I embarrass myself? Or what if they think badly of me? You let those thoughts get in the way. And you end up kind of losing yourself, living for other people's approval instead of your own happiness. And the other thing that can happen is that you get caught in a vicious anxiety cycle. You worry about what other people think, so you change your behavior to avoid judgment from others. This then reinforces the belief that you need other people's approval, but it also constricts your life. But then worry always comes back and the anxiety just grows more. So here are my top 10 tips to get you out of that vicious anxiety cycle and start caring less about what people think. So firstly, understand why you care so much. So firstly, you need to understand that our ancestors, so millions of years ago when we were early humans, we existed in groups and we relied heavily on social approval. Rejection from the group would mean death. We could not survive on our own. So we evolved to be really aware of our standing in our group, and we developed the ability to compare ourselves to others. Nowadays, instead of survival, we fear embarrassment, criticism, rejection, and being excluded. So understand this. You did not design your brain this way. It is how we have evolved. And understanding this can help us open the door to a little bit of self-compassion. It's natural that I care about what other people think of me. But I don't need to let that dictate what I do and the decisions that I make in my life. And that is the key. My second tip is that people think more about themselves than you. I remember once I was walking along the road and suddenly a bird pooed on my shoulder. Now, I didn't have any tissues, you never do you, when these things happen? And I frantically looked in my bag, found like an old receipt, was trying to wipe it off my shoulder. But the whole rest of the day, I was convinced that everyone was looking at me and noticing this stain. Have you ever had something like that happen to you? Let me know in the comments. Now, this is what social psychologists call the spotlight effect. And this is essentially a cognitive bias where we overestimate how much another person is noticing us or noticing what we do. Now, studies show that people with social anxiety tend to have higher levels of the spotlight effect than people who don't have social anxiety. So my tip here is this. You may feel like everyone around you is noticing things about you. The bright pink top that you're wearing, or the bird poo stain on your shoulder. But really, they're just too busy worrying about themselves. Because guess what? They are also experiencing the spotlight effect. My third tip is to stop mind reading. So one of the most common unhelpful thinking styles that we do is something called mind reading. which is when you act as if you know what someone else is thinking. So let's say you're on a train and you look up and somebody is looking at you. Your brain goes, they're looking at me funny. They must not like me. But you can't actually know what someone is thinking. You can't read someone's mind. You assume that someone is thinking negatively about you, but you have no proof. Instead, try and recognize when you are mind reading and name it as that. So you may say something like this to yourself: there's my brain again thinking that it can read minds. My fourth tip is this: will it matter in a year? Imagine you have a time machine and you can move forward in time to this time next year. Think about it. Most things that we stress about right now, we're not even going to remember in 6 months, 1 month, a year's time. So the next time you notice the anxiety around being perceived in a negative way or people judging you, ask yourself this: is future me going to care in 1 year's time? The answer is most likely going to be no. So then ask yourself, well, why am I wasting my time worrying about it now? My next tip is to accept that judgment is unavoidable. So let's get real for a minute. At the beginning of this video, I told you that our brains have evolved to allow us to compare ourselves to others and to ensure our survival by being part of a group, to be accepted by others, generally speaking. But this also means that we naturally judge other people too. And this can be positive or negative. And judging someone means that we're forming an opinion or an evaluation of someone based on certain things like characteristics they have, what they're wearing, what they look like, their actions, their words, etc. So I think accepting that as human beings, we naturally judge others is a really key point. And it can be helpful to say to yourself, not everyone in this world is going to like me or like what I do. And that's okay. I'm not on this planet to live a life someone else wants me to live. So think about it this way: other people's judgments and opinions are like bad Wi-Fi signals. They come and they go. But you don't have to waste your energy trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. You can just step back and use your phone data, i.e., do your own thing. My next point is identify whose opinions really matter. So following on from my last point, not everyone's opinion of you deserves space in your mind. And it's really important to focus on the people that do support you in your life. Everyone else, strangers in the street or people that you don't know that well, you don't have to care about what they think. So focus on those people whose opinions actually matter to you. Tip number 7 is reframe rejection. So there was one time when I was walking in London and I walked up onto the pavement and tripped and I fell over. I really hurt myself. I really scraped my knees. It was in the middle of summer. And someone actually, because I fell down so hard, someone actually had to help me up. And I noticed that as I was getting up, there was a couple of people walking past and they were smiling and basically laughing at me. And I did get a bit caught up in that embarrassment feeling. It lasted a while. My point here is that there are times in your life where you do experience rejection or being excluded or being criticized or being laughed at in my case. And it hurts. It's not very nice, is it? But try to see that as an indication of, well, maybe they're just not my people. They're not the sort of people that I want in my life. Now, my example was complete strangers. So I could just, sort of dismiss that in my mind. Well, they're just people that I don't know and I don't need to talk to them or see them ever again. But it is a lot harder if it's people closer to you that you feel are criticizing or judging you. And in that case, it might be an idea to communicate Actually, that hurt me when you said that. Or that wasn't appropriate that you said that to me, or that you treated me that way. And to see how they respond. And then you can use that information to decide for yourself how you want that person in your life, if at all. Real quick, if you're finding value from this video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps the video find more people, and hit subscribe so that you don't miss the next video. So number 8 is imagine yourself as an 80-year-old. So I want you to fast forward for a minute. So get back in that time machine and fast forward to when you are going to be 80. And I want you to very quickly imagine that it is your 80th birthday party. All of your friends and your family and the people that you worked with, they're all gathered in a room and they're there to celebrate you. And one of the guests gets up and does a speech about you. And I want you to think about what this person might be saying about you, about your life, about how you've influenced them, and about the difference that you've made to the people in your life. Now, come back to the here and now, and I want you to really think about what that person would have said about you if you had lived a life where what other people think of you had held you back, where it had stopped you really living a full life that you wanted, doing things that you truly wanted to do. And I use that exercise quite a lot in my sessions with clients because it's a really helpful way of thinking about this idea of values, thinking about what's actually important to me. What kind of life do I want to live? And here is my tip. So, whenever you are making a decision about something, what to wear, what job to go for, whether to speak up in a meeting, ask yourself, what would my 80-year-old self want me to do right now? How can I live boldly in this moment, aligned with what's truly important to me? Number 9 is do it anyway. So you may be thinking, well, that all sounds great, but actually, when I try and do things that I want to do, I feel really anxious. I get really worried about what people might think. Well, here's my tip, do it anyway. You can do the things that you want to do and feel anxious and fear judgment. Those things can coexist at the same time. It's not easy, but it can be done. And what I would recommend here is that if you are someone who does stop themselves from doing things because you fear judgment from others, then start really small. Try doing one thing today that makes you feel a little bit nervous, where you feel it might invite that negative judgment, like posting that video, for example, or wearing that bright green outfit that you love. See what happens when you do those things. Treat it like an experiment. And most importantly, congratulate yourself for doing it. Now, my last tip is about managing anxiety. If you do experience anxiety symptoms when you are doing things that go outside your comfort zone, then I've got a couple of videos that will help with this. So one of them takes you through a really simple 5 senses exercise. So it just helps you refocus on your 5 senses rather than the physical symptoms that you're experiencing. And the other one talks about self-compassion and how to use self-compassion to reduce anxiety. But you can do all the sort of basic stuff for anxiety management. So slowing your breathing down, using your 5 senses, and generally giving yourself encouragement. So some good things to say to yourself when you're doing some things that feel a bit scary is, I am good as I am. Others' opinions don't define me. I am living according to how I want to live. This is how I train my brain to care less about what other people think. So you're giving yourself just some gentle reminders of why you're doing that thing. So that brings us to the end of this video. I've given you 10 tips to go away, to try, and do let me know in the comments how you get on. I'll see you in the next video.